Benjamin, thank you so much for the time to chat with you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks to you. That's really nice.
Well, it's a privilege. The film is so much fun. It is such a joy. What was it that drew you to the project?
Actually the idea came from Kumail Nanjiani of doing this movie, and they reached out to me to ask me if I was interested in the project, and the pitch really, made me moved. I was very moved by the idea of what Kumail Nanjiani, he was a producer of the movie, what he wanted to share. He wanted to do this movie about like a little family that, the father wants to stay home because, he's happy home, he has this comfort and everything. The wife is more like, no, we need to keep challenging life. It's not how you should live life. You should be like always try to evolve and everything. And I thought it was a very heavy subject, but there was something very, very strong with it, and I knew we could treat it in a very light-hearted way. And this is the thing that I love to do the most. Like in all the movies that I worked on, there always was this very heavy subject, but treated in a very light-hearted sort of like tone, where we just use comedy, so that people doesn't even realize that there's something quite dark between, deep inside the story. So I was very excited by that, and the idea of using ducks, to express this very human feeling. It was very exciting. I love the tale aspect, of using animals to tell something that are very humans. I'm French, so I was raised with all those poems and fable, with animals, that I loved when I was a kid. There were a lot of famous, like there's a very French famous author called La Fontaine who did all those little poems with animals, and I used to read them a lot. And I love this way you can tell about the human, like very subtle emotions, but with animals, so you don't care about like the cultural aspect of humans. You just talk about who they are despite their culture. So you can talk to anyone, like you can talk to someone in Asia, like in Africa, or in everywhere. It's something that I love with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you're talking about this film here because it's so much more than the animals. Like
Yeah.
there is a deeper core to it. And I know when they're talking, and even at the film's outset, there's this conversation around the husband and the wife says, "I knew there was some adventure left in you."
Yeah.
And I was wondering, thinking of these beautiful themes that are going on. I'm wondering from you, what do you think we gain when we take risks? How do we recover that sense of adventure?
Yeah, well, it's what I always say. Like, it's funny how it's more like something that I know I have this issue of staying in my comfort zone myself. Like, like staying home, and because I'm a little bit down and everything, but deep inside, you have to confront yourself with not sad feelings, but feelings that might feel, like negative, like fear or anger or like things like that, so that you can understand how to deal with them, like how to challenge them. And the metaphor that I always give is when you're going on a trip with your friends or your wife or your partner, like whoever, and it's not going to be just pleasure. There's going to be moments where it's going to be a little bit, like you're going to argue, or you're going to be lost or scared, or things like that. But in the end, if you think about it, it's always a great memory. Like it's always like, because you learn things, and you learn things about life, and you learn things about your relationship with others. Like you always grow stronger and everything. So for me, it's really about that. Like just making sure that you need to challenge life to make sure you can sort of like overcome obstacles. And it's the only way you can evolve. If you stay home and just run in circle, that's the issue. It's a problem that I have sometimes, and I know I have this big problem myself, and I try to challenge it, and it's so easy to get back in the comfort zone that, like you have to push yourself to do that. And that's why we did this movie, like just to make sure that we can remind people, like, yeah, let's do this. Let's try to not stay just in this little bubble. Let's pierce it, and like it's not going to be pleasant at first, but the reward could be so great. Like that. You should definitely try it. Yeah.
Uh, Absolutely. And one of the things we see in here is the power that fear can have.
Yeah.
over you, and how it can keep you in that comfort zone. One of the things I love about this script is, like you said, there's something underneath, and I didn't realize it was written by Mike White.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I love his work. What is it, working with him, what is it that he brings to the film?
Yeah, well, he definitely brought this spirit, like that he has in the White Lotus and everything. And the thing, to be very honest with you, is when I arrived on the project, the script was already written. They've been working with Kumail Nanjiani for 1 year. So I had the script, and I met him a few times so we could discuss, and I could sort of like try to understand what he wanted to express and everything. But he had to go on Survivor, and then, because he was, like in the show Survivor, and then once he finished, he had to go shoot The White Lotus season 1. So, so it was a long time ago, and so we had chance to talk, and I could maybe offer some ideas, and for the script, so we could maybe rewrite some elements. But basically, we didn't have a chance of really work the whole script together until the end of a production. So it was a little bit tricky for me, because I had a huge respect, and I still have a huge respect for his work. And at the same time, he's not going to be there. So how can you make sure that you're going to do Mike White, but at the same time, you're not trying to copy him? Because I know it's not a good idea, trying to do something in the, like to try to replicate what someone would do. Like you have to be sincere with yourself. You have to tell your own feelings, and you don't have to try to copy the feeling of someone else. You have to make sure that you understand the feeling and you do it yourself. So it was a bit tricky, but in the end, finally he watched the movie at the end of the production. He followed like left and right how it was evolving, and he was always happy and content with what we were doing. So it was a huge relief, to be honest.
Well, the film is delightful, honestly. Absolutely, an absolute joy. Thank you so much for the time. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Don't worry, like you never stopped.